Hello, everybody. This is Kenny Evans and David Berry, and welcome to It's What You Keep. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you learn how to keep more of the money you earn so you can turn your income into lasting wealth. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to It's What You Keep. I'm Kenny Evans.
And I'm David Berry.
All right, Dave, thanks for joining me again today. And
right.
Today, we're going to continue our series. Actually, this is going to be the last entry on our series on loans and credit for a while. But we wanted to continue talking about last week. So last week, we got into the concept of payday loans and title loans and describing exactly what those were. Yeah, that was an interesting subject, to put it mildly.
Right.
We covered how they can look and seem pretty predatory in terms of high interest rates, and but sometimes people feel desperate and want to use this as what they're considering a last resort. But frankly, folks, we think we have some ideas around alternatives to this. So if you ever find yourself contemplating a payday loan, we'd like you to think about these 5 alternatives to that. And yes, some of them may sound kind of far-fetched or maybe desperate or what have you, but they are all better alternatives, in our opinion, than a payday loan and the financial chaos that payday loans and title loans can cause to your overall financial health. So with that said, Dave, you want to kick us off with the first alternative to payday and title loans?
Yeah, sure. So one of the alternatives is to use a credit union. Now, credit unions are a little bit different than banks, but but a lot of the credit unions have what they call payday alternative loans. It's a special category of loans, and these loans can be in similar amounts between $200 and $1,000 if needed. Now, the interest rates that the credit unions offer are much less than what you would get at these payday loan stores. I mean, they're capped at 28%. It's still high, but not as high as 400% that you would get from one of these payday lenders.
It sounds less than a credit card, and a lot of credit cards too. Right?
It is. I mean, because at 20%, and it's capped at 28, so you could get a lower offer or a lower interest rate, depending upon your situation and the rules and guidelines of the credit union.
Okay.
So, and the terms are different as well. So some of the payday loans, you have to pay it within 30 or even 15 days. So with a credit union, you can get, from 1 month to as long as 6 months to a year.
Okay.
So you'd have to actually contact that credit union and see what their loan terms are. So, and the payments are more flexible, lasting from 1, to 6 months, as I mentioned.
So my understanding is you generally have to be a member of a credit union. So would you have to join these credit unions, or do they?
That is correct.
Okay.
You are correct.
Okay.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure. I know they used to have them at my old job. Yeah, there was a credit union, but you kind of were a default member because you worked there. And I think it was something little small, like $5. You had to put in a savings account. Actually, you didn't pay that. You just put it in their savings account, and you were a member. And then you could go get a car loan.
No, you're absolutely right. So you can't just walk up to a credit union and say, I want to be, a member.
Okay.
You have to be affiliated with an agency to become either your work or some sort of a government agency.
Gotcha.
Some sort of a common bond that's linked to this credit union.
Okay.
And so you have to become a member, you have to fill out an application. And you're right, you do have to make a small deposit. And it can be as low as $5.
Okay.
Now, if you're not associated, through your job or one of these other agencies, you can be a family member of someone who is associated, or who is a part of that credit union. So a spouse, a brother, and then sometimes, depending upon the credit union, you can be a cousin of someone who's part of that credit union.
I'm liking this alternative already.
Right.
It seems like it's a flexible option.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm a third cousin twice removed.
Right.
So I want to join the
best
credit union.
friend's cousin's uncle's brother.
Right.
I got you.
But however you can join, this is one alternative. Now, depending upon the credit union, sometimes I read that some of the credit unions will require that you are a member or have been a member for a certain number of months.
Okay.
So
Oh,
it may not be as
interesting.
quick as you would think.
Okay.
Because if they require 1 month for you to become a member, well, that's 1 month that you will not have that money.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
get that, and I know that a lot of times the people going to a payday title loan feel really desperate. But man, if it's like a
mm,
month, 30 days, I would really think hard about what that would cost me overall. Is it worth, spending 5 or 6 times as much money for that 1 month? I don't know. For me, it wouldn't be, but then people have different takes on that. But understood. That sounds like
yeah.
it actually just sounds like a really good lower cost alternative to a payday.
You would, I mean, if you start to run the numbers, you come out way ahead. I
Yeah.
mean, you're looking at 400% versus 28%.
Yeah, it's not even a
And even,
contest.
the loan fees that the credit union charges are, capped at $20.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
payday loan, fees are much higher than that.
That's great. And then I think,
Yes.
it's cool. Once you do that, then you're a member of a credit union too. I think on the back end, as your financial situation improves, then you've got a place to stash money, frankly, and at
Oh,
a decent,
absolutely.
yeah. I like it. I like that
No,
alternative.
you can. You're absolutely right. I mean, because, and what I was going to say is to piggyback on your comment,
Hmm.
even if you don't need it, it's
Right.
best to be a part of it anyway.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, if you become a part of it and you don't have to wait the 30 days because now you're already there.
That's fantastic.
So it's
Yeah.
a good alternative.
It's,
Now,
it's yeah, it sounds
one
like
of
a good
the,
idea to join just on GP, on general principle.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So so another alternative
Yep.
is to negotiate with your creditors. Now this is going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of soft skills on our part
Hmm.
to call them and to try to negotiate. A lot of times we're not used to doing it. And I'm not used to doing it
Right.
because you have to really, kind of go to them with hat in hand and explain your situation.
I see. So you're talking
And
about
so
going directly to the people you owe. The
absolutely.
idea being, I'm going for this payday loan or this title loan because I owe somebody some money. And as an alternative, go directly to the folks you owe, assuming it's a business or some kind of financial entity, and
That's right.
negotiate.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of times, they're willing to negotiate because when they look at their alternatives, because if they make their most money if you pay.
Right.
If you get a bill and you pay, well, they make their most money. Now, any alternative after that, they make less.
Got
So if
it.
they sell it to a creditor, well, they're going to make less. If they
Right.
just write it off as a bad debt, well, they make less. And
Gotcha.
so what they want to do is, they're willing to work with you. Many creditors are willing to work with you on your situation because that way they get something out of the deal.
Yeah, it sounds like that's their best chance to be whole, to become whole, and to make the most money on
Oh
the.
yeah.
Okay, that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
it makes the whole effort, a faster resolution to the situation than versus legal action.
Right.
You
Oh.
know,
Oh.
once they have to pay a lawyer, well, they're
Right.
making less money
Right.
on the deal.
Legal
And
action. The
so
lawyers get
basically,
rich, right? The lawyers get
oh,
rich.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they love it.
They love it. Oh yeah, go. Let's
Yeah,
take them to
yeah.
court. Yeah, go ahead.
No offense to lawyers.
Yeah, well, we understand. Everybody's got a job to do, but
Right.
when your job is to build your finance, you got to try to minimize those expenses. So we get it. We get it.
That's right. Yeah. So basically, so when you call them, you want to make sure that you call the right person. You want to ask for whoever the credit is, you want to ask for the hardship or loss mitigation or debt settlement department. You don't
Hmm.
want to contact, just customer service
Yes. Yes.
because
Okay.
they don't have the authority to make any requests or approval to requests.
Interesting. Got
And
it.
so, and before you call, you really have to kind of know your situation. You want to know exactly what your balance is. Take a look at your plan, your income, because what you're going to be negotiating is either a payoff of a smaller portion of the debt, a monthly payoff on a smaller portion, or a reduction in interest rate. But
Mm.
to do that, you have to know what you can realistically pay.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And so that takes some work on our end to actually, get our ducks in line and in a row before we actually call them and say, hey, I can't do anything.
Yep.
Another thing I read is that sometimes when you make that call, they will reject the first offer. It's hard to believe, but they'll say, yeah, no, we can't really do that because you're going to come down and say, okay, I can pay this much.
Right.
And they're going to push back.
Huh.
Because, they want to make as much as they
Yeah, the faster the better. Right. You're right.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes they may reject it altogether. But you can still be polite and then continue to be polite and steadfast in your request.
So that's where the negotiation part comes in. And when you mentioned soft skills, right? This is where you have to kind of shed off the I'm super bad or whatever, and be polite about it and understand that they're yeah, it makes sense. That's where the negotiation part comes in for sure.
Oh yeah, and I've actually done this before.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had some coaching, and this particular agency had an online request, and so I talked to them, and they said, well, you have to fill out this form, and so I filled out the form, and it got rejected.
Wow.
And then but at the bottom of the form it says you can resubmit.
Oh wow!
Which was very polite of them. I said, "Oh,
yeah, really?
Okay, let me."
That's kind of a nudge. Hint, hint. Don't give up, bro.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Resubmit.
Wow.
So I resubmitted, and that got rejected.
Wow.
But at the bottom of the form it said you can resubmit.
Now when you resubmitted, did you change any other terms, or did you do anything different?
I can't remember if I did or not, because a lot of the form actually asked for, they wanted to see my payments, bills that I'd made already, or had, my income, and things like that.
Okay.
It's been so long ago that I can't remember exactly what the form said, but I know that it got rejected at least 4 times.
Wow.
Because everyone said, but you could, and even when I called them to request and to talk to someone, they said, but you can't, they always encourage me to continue on.
That is very, very interesting.
They always encouraged me to continue on. And so I did. And I think the 4th time they accepted my offer.
Wow.
And actually they put together a schedule.
Okay.
And it was awesome.
Okay.
But it was something that I could do.
Understood.
And so I was able to catch up. They forgave some of the debt. And then, once I was able to catch up for a year, I refinanced and got out of it altogether.
Wow.
And rolled, another, mortgage into the whole, deal.
I don't want to say that this was the actual case, but it sounds an awful lot like they were like, let's see how serious he is. It kind of has that flavor. Like, let's see how serious he is. If he's serious enough, then we'll. And then they come back with something that works. Not just works, but it sounds like it worked well. And
it did.
Yeah.
Yep. It was something that I could keep. And now, of course, I had to, when I filled out the paperwork, that's the, know what I could accept or know what I could pay. I had to keep up with that. Now, in this case, it was a mortgage on a property that I owned.
Right.
And once they made that negotiation, I had to make sure that I kept up with the payments for a year before I could, refinance it and get out of it.
Wow.
And so it had to be something that I could keep up with.
No, makes sense. Don't put yourself in a
so
further...
it's best so it's best to call them. It works. Sometimes it may not work, but it's an alternative.
Yep. Definitely sounds like a better alternative than a payday or title loan. So.
Oh, definitely. So number 3.
Yes, sir.
This option is going to kind of put you out there in terms of your personal situation. This option is to ask for an advancement on your paycheck. So now with this option, you have to actually contact your employer to ask for a paycheck advancement.
Understood. So you're basically asking them to pay you early, or
absolutely,
lack of a better term. Okay.
That's right. And so basically you have to come now you've got, these are people that you're going to see, all the time, depending on the size of your company.
Right.
So you're going to see these people. If you have to talk to your manager, well, you see them all the time,
Right.
or HR or someone like that. But it's a better alternative
Then
than these high interest, high finance loans,
yeah.
which, as we know and we mentioned in our last episode, it can spiral out of control.
Yep. Yep.
Those payday auto can spiral out of control, and then you're in a worse situation than, telling a coworker that, hey, listen, I'm in a situation.
Right. Oh, and and a supervisor in this case, or someone from payroll.
That's
like,
right.
Like you said.
That's right.
I've actually been
So,
in this situation, Dave, and that you're absolutely right. It is a little, and I was a very small company, and I sat next to the president. Right. He was next door to me, but the relief I felt, first of all, being a small company, it wasn't that big a deal. I did have to swallow some pride, and that's where we're really going with this, right? Is that you got to swallow some pride in order to save your financial well-being, and to me that's a fair trade. It's like,
oh yeah,
you got
absolutely.
because nothing's more embarrassing than losing your car or being put out of your house because you can't pay your bills. The little bit of embarrassment you might feel having to ask for something like this at work seems to me worth it. That's just my 2 cents. I'll throw that in there. I've had to do it in the past, and it worked out great. It worked out fine.
No, and you know what? I think that once you do this, and because it can be an embarrassing situation,
Yep.
this may be the Kickstarter for you not to be in the situation
Yeah,
again.
that's true. I don't want to have to do this ever again, for sure. For
Right.
sure.
So what are the steps to do this? Advancements on your paycheck? Well, you have to check the company's policy. And
Yep.
so you can find these things on your internal website, or HR has got a portal that you may be able to use. So to see what their terms and conditions are regarding these advancements, if they do them, what the payback schedules are, anything like that. But
Okay.
so then contact HR or your manager, and HR may be a safer alternative than your manager
Yep.
if you just feel awkward about it.
Yep. Yeah, they tend to keep that between HR and the employee at that larger
Yeah.
companies, for sure. For sure. So is that the only way to do like these advances, is to go to your employer?
I've looked online and I've seen some apps
Okay.
that do these advancements somehow. But I think it's safer to stick with your employer.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's something else to check out. You can check out some apps. I don't know any offhand, but if
Sure.
you check online, they may have some conditions.
Yeah, I've seen some ads for things like, I got my check 2 days early, and I am not. I guess maybe I'm jaded, but I'm not. I guess I wouldn't think that that's free, right? Is that
Right,
that
right.
as somebody says, oh, I'll just give you your money early for free. That there's some cost involved, and they'll say, and there's no extra fees. They always throw that extra in there. No extra fee. What's
Right.
the regular fee? It's like,
Right.
I heard that extra. You didn't get that by me. But
That's
yeah, I
right.
do know that there are some companies out there that I don't know whether you have to agree to deposit your check with them so that they get the money directly from your company, and then they can take their part out or whatever. Not sure, but I know that there are companies out there that say, yeah, get your check up to 2 or up to 5 days early, up to a week earlier. That's a loan. There's no 15 ways about that. And so,
Right.
I'm curious. I'd be curious to, maybe we could do a little digging into that and find out without.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in that they have to make money, and they're going to make
for sure.
they're going to make money off of you.
They got to pay for that commercial they
so-
just showed you.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
commercial wasn't free during the Super Bowl. I need to know. I need to know where did you get your money from? And it wasn't out of just good graces. But yeah. Let's do a little research.
Right.
Let's dig into that one a little bit.
Yeah, so I would first contact, see if your employer has a program before you step outside to a third party.
Understood. Like it.
Yeah, so it seems just safer.
Well,
All right, so those are the first three.
Yeah,
those are the
I
first
appreciate
three.
those three. I got it. So a fourth one here, and this is about stepping outside of your comfort zone a little bit. but it's amazing. I'll start with a quick reference that when I was getting ready to go to college, my mom would fuss at me about not going to look for more scholarships, that there were tons of scholarships that were going unawarded every year, and that people were given
Oh,
things for scholarships for something like, do you like to ride your bike, which we all know I like to do. I don't know that there were really scholarships for that, but the point she was trying to make is that there were opportunities to get money for college that people were ignoring, either through ignorance, they didn't know about it,
yeah.
or through, embarrassment, or not wanting to ask. And this next alternative to payday loans is one of those. And that's to approach local nonprofits, some charities, or even your local church about emergency funds. And I want to say, a lot of times these places, they're established to help people that are struggling or in a little bit of trouble. And you might be surprised. They're dealing with folks who, may not have food for their kids or whatever. They might welcome somebody saying, I just need $100 for a couple of weeks. That
Yeah.
is like, oh, that's no problem, but I've never done it myself. So I can't speak to exactly how that goes down or whatever, but they are built to help. And a lot of times people miss out on assistance because they are embarrassed. I can remember,
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever had to go to the unemployment office, Dave, but even going to something like the unemployment office, where you're going to sign up to get money that you have earned while you look for another job. It's embarrassing, especially when you run into people you know. What you got to
Oh,
remember, though,
yeah.
is that they're there too
Right, right.
for the same
Yeah. Hey,
reason.
Bill.
Right, exactly. They got laid off from the same company you got laid off from, right?
Right.
But yeah, a lot of these alternatives are about what we said earlier, swallowing your pride, and that's a kind of a harsh way to put it, but it's really about, you're trying to save your financial life, and there should be nothing embarrassing about that.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
No, I mean, it shows that you are trying to take control of your situation.
exactly,
I
exactly.
mean, yeah, it's best, not to, it's best to do that than to let it spiral out of
Let it
control.
spiral out of control. And here you have an alternative and an opportunity. And a lot of times these nonprofit and community organizations, these aren't loans, these are gifts. Now, what's
Mhm.
great about that is, depending on where your heart is, when you are back on your feet, you can then be on the giving side of that, right? Like
Oh,
when
yeah.
you said, these people helped me out when I was down, and now I can turn around. They helped me out of a tight spot. And whether it be, 6 months, a year, 10 years later, you can turn around and help them. But here you get help, and you don't go further into debt, and there's generally not any interest rate charge. They may ask you to, when can you return the money? But you're
Mhm.
dealing with these are nonprofit resources, these are community resources. Again, as an alternative, if you're thinking about a title loan, or you're thinking about a payday loan, this is a strong alternative to
Yeah.
that.
And I know some of these organizations, they also have more assistance than
Yeah.
just giving you the money. They actually
Yes.
have, people that will walk alongside you and help you prepare a budget, do some financial planning, and give you services for, free that you don't have otherwise.
That's a great
And
point.
you won't get those from a credit union.
No, and you certainly won't get it from a payday loan store. So that's a great point, that you explain to what your situation is, and here's your $200 or your $100, and by the way, we offer this assistance as well. So community and nonprofit organizations definitely recommend as an alternative if you're thinking about payday and title loans.
Oh yeah, I like that
Yeah,
alternative.
I think that's a strong one. And then finally, one more, number 5. And Dave, I tell you, a lot of these paths I've been down, and this is one of them. And that is to sell some kind of side income.
Yeah.
These days, there are other quick gigs, things like driving for a ride share service, or doing delivery for like Uber Eats or something like that. What I found
Hmm.
out recently is, I know when they first started, the idea was that you used your own car once you got it certified by the rideshare company. You had to take it to one of their authorized dealers for them to check it out to make sure it had four doors and seat belts, basically, and the headlights worked, and that you didn't have a bad driving record, and you could work driving other people around through an app, through a phone app, right? I know many people use Uber and Lyft and these rideshare services, but since then they now have programs where you don't even need your own car; they will supply
Right.
you a car. You know,
Yeah.
if you have a valid driver's license and not a bunch of violations on your record, so now that's one less barrier to entry, if you would, to
Mhm.
doing something like this. And there is money to be made. Yes, you have to work, but it's there are tons of people doing it. I've seen people, retired people, doing it just to have something to do.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen people who are filling in a gap and financially. So side incomes for these quick gigs is one, but the one I'm more familiar with is selling unused items, becoming getting on eBay and becoming a seller on one of these online. And with the online alternatives, there is just so much more opportunity. Yes, you can set up a yard sale, but that's a lot more physical work as
Mhm.
opposed to going online and becoming a seller on eBay. And you would be amazed at what you can sell. Stuff that is gathering dust in your house is somebody is sitting wanting that thing. I think of things like old video camcorders I didn't use anymore that worked perfectly, but I didn't use them. And somebody, I mean, it's sold like hotcakes. I've sold magazines, that were out of print.
Really?
Oh man, I sold a remote control car. I sold a bottle once, an empty bottle. So real quick before we run out of time here,
Oh,
yeah,
you're
no,
kidding me.
uh,
Oh, empty bottle?
empty bottle. So there's a cognac. You're familiar with Remy Martin. You've heard of it,
Yeah.
right? I know you're not
Yeah.
a big drinker, but
Hmm.
Remy Martin. Well, they have different levels. There's also Cavassier and there's others, Martell, all these cognacs, and then they have different levels. XO and VO and VSOP, but Remy makes one called Louis the 13th, and I have different stories about exactly how that's made and what's in it, and what have you. But it's obscenely expensive. Like
Yeah.
it costs on the street at a store, if you could order it, it might cost you like $1,700 a bottle, right? But in a bar, they charge upwards of $150 or $200 per ounce per shot of
Yeah.
this liquor, right? The thing is, it comes in a crystal bottle. I want to say it's Swarovski. I never say that name right. The Swarovski, well, one of those
Yeah.
expensive. So the bottle, I sold so if you go to a bar and you drink the last shot, so I'm on, when I back was working as a salesman for, sales director and working for this corporation where you had a budget and you're buying for all the sales guys in there. We finished a bottle of Louis the 13th on the company's dime. And there's a and I won't call it a habit. It's a tradition that if you finish a bottle at a bar, the bar has to give you the bottle, the empty bottle.
Okay. Right.
And I got that bottle and I sold it on eBay for $250.
You're kidding me.
No, an empty bottle,
200, and they
200.
just gave you the bottle.
They just gave me the bottle and I went on eBay and sold it for $250. Now, what the reason is because people want to flex, right? So they'll fill it full of, E and
Yeah.
J. It's the E and J,
Sure. Sure.
and they'll put
Yeah.
it on
T
there
and
and say, "Oh, I've got Louis and most people aren't messing with that stuff, so they won't know the difference, right? But
right.
but I sold an empty bottle for 250 that I got for free. So again, this is just an alternative, folks, and when we're talking
So
about.
how do you know? How do you know, like the things that you were looking at around your house? How do
Mhm.
you know that they're worth something?
Go online, go to eBay and look it up. That's
That's
exactly.
it,
I
huh?
mean, yeah, you see something around your house. You say, I wonder if anybody would buy that, and you can go and look, and you'll see. What you'll probably find is that there's 20 of them for sale already, at varying
Oh, wow.
prices.
Yeah.
At varying prices, and
Yeah,
we're
because I guess if it's something that's old that they just can't find at a
exactly.
store anywhere, then they've got to find somebody who has it and it's working.
I'm just telling you that I have high. Remember the high eight cassettes, video cassettes that you could put in a video recorder. The
Yeah.
8 millimeter, I've got like 5 of those things. I can't play them. You can't buy a commercial 8 millimeter player anywhere, but you can
Oh,
find them on eBay in a heartbeat. And so, yeah,
oh,
so that is another alternative. So side income, selling unused items, finding a way to use your existing resources. Again, these are longer term than going to payday or a title loan, but it is so much more financially
oh,
healthy.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's just so much more financially healthy. So that's it. Those are 5 quick win alternatives that we think are great alternatives to payday and title loans. Credit union, small loans, payment plan negotiation, advances from your employer or HR, community and nonprofit resources, or a side income, either through a side gig or selling stuff that you're no longer using around your house. And that's it, man. I think those are great alternatives to think about before stepping into a payday or title loan store.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it takes a little bit of effort, and in some cases some humility,
Yep.
but definitely worth it.
Yep. So, yep. So we are a bit over time, but I think this was an
Oh,
important episode to have. And like I said, that's going to wrap up this series on loans and credit. We'll revisit loans and credit later on and talk about what we consider healthy loans and healthy ways to use credit and debt. There are healthy ways, but we wanted to cover what ways that can hurt your financial situation first to help people dig out of holes they may have been dug into. So with that said, Dave, are we good?
we are good, Ken.
All right, my man. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. As usual, if you want to visit our website at www.keepitpodcast.com, that's www.keepitpodcast, all one word.com, where we have copies of our podcast available, as well as links to other resources to help you on your financial journey. That said, we're going to close off for this episode. Dave, it's been
All
great,
right,
man.
Ken.
Thanks for doing the digging and research on those. I learned something from you every time we talk.
Same here. Same
All
here.
right, brother. All right,
We'll talk to you
everybody.
later.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, peace.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. Please be sure to visit our website at www.keepitpodcast.com. That's www.keepitpodcast, all one word.com. There you'll find links to websites and blogs related to building wealth and other useful information. You can also leave comments about our show and listen to or download all our shows after they air. Also, as a reminder, this show is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as financial advice, as we do not know your specific circumstances and are not your fiduciaries. Please consult with your personal financial advisor before making any investments or financial decisions. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. In the meantime, remember, it's not what you make, it's what you keep.